The house had a way of sounding full, even when no one was saying anything important. Plates touched the table a little too loudly. Chairs scraped as if they needed to remind everyone they were there. Laughter came in short bursts, quick, practiced, and already fading before it settled. He noticed these things because he always had. Not out of sensitivity exactly, more like habit, the kind you build when you grow up learning that tone matters more than words, and timing matters more than truth. He had chosen tonight carefully. Not because it was symbolic. He didn't believe in those kinds of gestures anymore, but because it was the only night everyone would be in the same room without questioning why Thanksgiving. Predictable. Contained. He waited until the food had already been passed around once. Until the first layer of hunger had softened people. Until his father had leaned back slightly, one hand resting on the table like he owned not just the wood but the space above it. That's when he said it. I cleared the remaining balance, he said, not loudly. The last 6,000. For a second, no one moved. It wasn't silence in the dramatic sense. More like a brief misalignment, like the room hadn't decided what the sentence meant yet. His mother blinked first. Then his sister glanced between them, trying to read the script. His father didn't rush. He tilted his head slightly, the way he did when something amused him before it impressed him. Then he laughed, not harsh, not even loud, just enough to give the room direction. Trying to buy your way into being the favorite, he said, almost casually. And just like that, the moment shifted. A few smiles appeared, uncertain at first, then more confident once they saw his father wasn't offended. Someone let out a short laugh. His sister looked down at her plate, then joined in half a second too late. It wasn't cruelty, it was alignment. He felt it not as a sting, but as confirmation. Like something he had suspected for years finally choosing to stand still long enough to be seen clearly. He didn't argue. That was the part he had changed about himself. Though no one had noticed yet, there was a time he would have explained, clarified, tried to reshape the meaning of what he'd done so it could land properly. But standing there with the room already moving on, he realized something quieter. It didn't matter how it landed. He reached for his phone without urgency. No sudden movements, no need to reclaim attention, just a small shift like checking a message during dinner. His thumb hovered for a moment, not out of doubt but out of acknowledgement of what this meant, not financially but structurally. Then he tapped. The transfer reversal processed faster than he expected. A small confirmation appeared on the screen. Clean, final. He placed the phone back down beside his plate. No announcement followed. For a while nothing changed. His father continued talking. Something about interest rates, about how timing always matters more than intention. The conversation moved unevenly but forward. Then his mother's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, frowned slightly, then looked again, this time longer. What? She murmured, almost to herself. His father noticed the shift. What is it? He asked, not impatient, just accustomed to answers. She didn't respond immediately. Instead, she turned the screen slightly toward him. He leaned in, and for the first time that evening, his expression didn't arrive fully formed. What is that? He asked. It says the payment's gone, she said, reversed. There it was, not loud, not explosive, but unmistakable. The room didn't erupt this time. It tightened. His father looked up slowly, his eyes finding him with a kind of focus that hadn't been there before. You did that? He asked. He nodded once, no explanation, no defense, just acknowledgement. That's not. His father paused, recalibrating. That's not how this works. The words sounded less certain than usual, as if they had been used so often in other contexts that they expected to carry authority automatically, but they didn't. Not here. It is actually, he said, his voice even. It's exactly how it works. No edge, no challenge, just fact. His father pushed his chair back slightly, the leg scraping louder this time. You don't get to just... I didn't give it as a favor, he interrupted, still calm, and I'm not keeping it as one. That was the closest he came to explaining. His mother looked between them, something unsettled in her expression, not panic, not even fear. Just the realization that something familiar had shifted into a shape she didn't recognize. His father stood up, then stopped, as if unsure what standing was supposed to accomplish. Sit down, he said, but it didn't land as an order, more like a request that had forgotten how to ask. He didn't move. I'm not upset, he added after a moment, and it was true. That was the part that surprised him the most. There was no surge of satisfaction, no sense of winning, just a quiet alignment inside himself. You made it a transaction, he continued, so I treated it like one. The room held that sentence differently, not as defiance, but as something harder to dismiss. His father's shoulders shifted, the certainty in them loosening slightly. That's not what I meant, he said, but the words came slower now. He believed him, or at least... He believed that his father believed that. But that didn't change anything. He picked up his coat from the back of the chair, moving carefully so it didn't brush against anyone else. You don't have to leave, his mother said too quickly. He paused, not turning yet. I know, he said, and he did. That was new, too. He put the coat on, adjusting the sleeve like it mattered, like the small details still deserved attention, even when the larger ones had already settled. When he reached the door, he finally looked back, not at anyone in particular, just at the room. It looked the same. That was the strangest part. Nothing had broken. Nothing had exploded, and yet something had ended, not the relationship, not even the connection, just the idea that it could be earned. He stepped outside before anyone could decide what to say next. The door closed behind him with a soft, ordinary sound. Inside, the house would eventually fill itself again, with voices, with explanations, with attempts to smooth over what didn't quite fit anymore. But out here, in the quiet that didn't ask anything from him, he felt something steadier than relief. Not victory, just absence. And for the first time, it didn't feel like something he needed to fix.